Full transparency, I've been playing the Master Collection and have been absolutely loving it, but it's hard to ignore some deal breakers that could potentially put people off shelling out $60 for this collection. Whether it's the lack of visual improvements, PC compatibility, or even the wildest one, the complete disappearance of some of the games from the Nintendo Switch port, these are some of the things you really need to know before you commit to buying it. For months, many fans were worried about the alleged 30 FPS versions that were rumoured for MGS2 and 3. Luckily, Konami confirmed this wasn't the case and the MGS2 and 3 would in fact run at 1080p 60 FPS, but the drama doesn't stop there. Playing Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PS5 definitely felt laboured. Despite the promise of 30 FPS, it really doesn't feel like it runs that smooth. On paper, it might say it runs at 30 FPS, but in reality, it feels much slower. While PlayStation, PC, and Xbox gamers are blessed with 60 FPS versions of MGS2 and 3, Nintendo Switch gamers have been shortchanged, as both of the formerly mentioned are locked at 30 FPS. While it's great we get the Blue Point versions of MGS2 and 3, it is a bit disappointing to see that they are a literal straight port, with the games maxing out at 1080p with no support for 4K resolution for the modern hardware versions. One thing that is good, Konami seems to be listening to the feedback and being quite transparent, as they provided a full list of bugs and glitches to IGN before the game was released, which they didn't need to do. They could have just cyberpunked us, but they didn't. The list included subtitles not matching up to the audio in the Metal Gear and Snake Revenge ports, and the lack of changing the aspect ratio. The same is true for Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2, as they are missing the ability to switch between windowed and full screen mode. Konami reports that cutscenes in MGS 1, 2, and 3 can slow the game down significantly, with some delays in timing for visual effects. I'll be honest, I never really experienced any of the cutscene lag while playing the main Metal Gear Solid series. Maybe it's because I played it on PS5, but one weird glitch that is noticeable is pausing during cutscenes. This was a heavily requested feature from fans, as MGS is notorious for its multiple 30-minute cutscenes, so it's nice to see that Konami have added the feature, but it comes at a cost. Pausing during a cutscene is painfully slow, and I mean, honestly, it can take up to 10 seconds for the game to even recognize you've pressed the pause button. This wasn't mentioned in the patch notes provided to IGN, so it may have been missed and will hopefully be fixed at a later date. PC gamers have quite a bit to be worried about too, as there was the initial scare that the game wouldn't even be compatible with mouse and keyboard at all, but from a quick glance at the Steam reviews, it's very much a mixed bag. Players are complaining of poor user interface, unintuitive key bindings for the controls, and a complete lack of aspect ratio options. The most concerning of all the mentioned issues though is the complete disappearance of some games from the physical Nintendo Switch version. Twitter user JawMuncher posted this photo explaining that the only games that are actually physically on the cartridge were Metal Gear, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, Metal Gear for the SNES, and Snake's Revenge, meaning that the whole main storyline of the Metal Gear Solid series is completely missing from the physical package. We're still awaiting confirmation from other regions, but it seems North Americans will not have physical copies of MGS 1, 2, and 3, and will instead have to download these games digitally. You may think that's not a big deal, but considering those mentioned games are literally on the front case of the physical copy, and many are buying this because they want exactly that, a physical copy, it's extremely alarming. This means you have to rely on an internet connection and a temporarily online storefront to access the game, which sure, in 2023 may not be a huge issue, but for many, Nintendo Switch gaming is on the go, so really this is something that should have been highlighted very early on. Even worse is the complete discrepancy between regions, as it seems Japanese owners do in fact at least get MGS1 as a physical cartridge, leaving many North Americans feeling shortchanged. Although I've not directly been affected by these issues during my experience, and I still overall feel it's a great package, it's hard to deny that these are some issues that could be a deal breaker for some, and really they should have been transparent and open about these prior to people purchasing. If you're still unsure about whether the Master Collection is right for you, go check out this video where I go in depth around whether you should buy the Master Collection Volume 1.